Okay, so last week we did Ephesians 5 verses 7 and 8. This week we're hoping to get another two verses in, verses 9 and 10. So I got to turn to Ephesians first here. Oops. Okay, so let's start here. Oops, I had the bookmark right there. Okay, so verse 9, which I think is quite an important verse, is for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth. So when you go to Galatians 5, which we had done, several months ago, Paul lists the fruits of the Spirit, right? Mm-hmm. But it's more than just the list in Galatians 5.
Right.
So then he kind of clarifies here that you can summarize everything that's a fruit in the Spirit in goodness, righteousness, and truth. And I think that the thing that perhaps had the greatest impact on me as a Christian, for those of you in the study, is the Sermon on the Mount. But the second was Galatians 5. It was the understanding of the fruits of the Spirit is extremely important for a spiritual walk, for transformation, for redemption. It's something that is unfortunately lost because we live in the apostasy, but it was perhaps the understanding of the fruits, the expression of the fruits themselves are the greatest aspect of our faith. And in terms of the Gospels, I think the one that mentions it the most, although it mentions it in a little off, way that's not as direct, but the Gospel of John, Jesus mentions a lot. He says, you know them by their fruits. So that means fruits means actions, and then fruits of the Spirit means godly actions. So then godly actions are summarized in goodness, righteousness, and truth. Okay? So we have a bunch of questions. Okay, the first two questions are might be a little bit negative, but they're relevant for the year 2025, okay? Which is, how do fears often eradicate goodness even with good people?
Well, I'd say an essential element of goodness is being open and extending yourself to other people. So fear kind of quenches that. Like, it's hard to be good to a stranger if you're afraid to talk to them, or it's hard to make yourself vulnerable to someone you're close to if you're afraid of anything.
Well, I think also good people get manipulated by good fears too.
Okay.
So good people have learned in the last 10 years to discriminate against people based on stereotyping, right?
Mm-hmm. So
they say, okay, you are somebody that's not supposed to do this, so you're bad. Mm-hmm. So if you if you look at like the political biases, if you like Chick-fil-A, then you're full of hatred. Mm-hmm. We talked about the Sydney Sweeney commercial quite a bit.
Yeah.
Means racism. Or if you're on the other side of the political aisle, if you associate with people that are liberal, then that means that, actually, I don't know. It's funny, Trump challenges this a lot because I think that's starting to change.
And now you move away from goodness.
Right. It used to be people on the right, would have different opinions.
Yeah, the liberals are trying to take away our parental rights and corrupt our children with bad views.
Right, and so I think, good people don't realize it, but instead of being open to all people, they are also, because of fears, they become discriminatory against people that are different than the group that they ascribe to.
Yeah.
So you can say it's bad to get caught up in a group that has nothing to do with God, and that's true, but it would be, like I said, life would be so much easier if just doing it then made you a bad person, because then you could say, I need to be a good person, so I'm not going to get caught up in this group. Well, unfortunately, reality isn't like that. Like getting caught up in this mindset is a burden to your soul, and it does create badness, it does create division, but it does not mean that everybody is bad that does this. So,
Right.
so good people get caught up in fear culture as well. You can be a good person. Like, if you're a good person, it means that you help people. It means that you are honest. Means you don't steal. Means that you care about people in need. You're beneficial to people that are less fortunate than you. You can do all these things and discriminate against people that are different based on the socialization of society today.
That's a good point.
Whereas I think in the Christian era, everybody was more connected to God in a Christian country. So then being bad was what disconnected you from God.
Mm-hmm.
Not that sin doesn't. Obviously, sin disconnects you from God, whether you're good or bad, right?
Right.
And all sin, even good people, commit sins, right?
Right.
But it was easier when the only disconnection was sin.
Right.
Whereas now it is sociological philosophies of fear that are creating multiple lines of division that is manifesting itself in isolation, separation, and discord and polarization of people's different beliefs based on a false understanding that happiness comes from self-justification and acceptance in a group.
Mm.
Okay. So how do fear-based social discrimination eradicate goodness? I think I might have just answered that, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, now let's go back to goodness in the more positive sense. Okay, how does goodness bring you closer to God?
Well, anytime you're exhibiting goodness, doing good things, you get a lot of positive feelings that are kind of in tune to the Spirit of God. So even if you're not a saved person, if you do a good thing, that feeling is closer to God than other feelings that you have.
That is true, and there's more to that very point. Can anyone think of any other things to add? Okay, to go with your point, okay, is that if you do something good, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Say you're helping somebody, and then say I independently have the same idea,
Yeah.
and then we both end up at the same time, the same place, helping the same person. How does that affect our friendship?
Well, yeah, then we're going to have more love for each other because we feel the same things.
Right. So that there's that part where it says His Spirit identified with my spirit.
Yeah.
So I think basically, goodness makes commandments become natural.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to read them anymore
Yeah.
because they come.
Yeah, it becomes your instinct to do it.
Right. So where it says the law is written in your heart.
Yeah.
So the law is in essence goodness.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So then goodness becomes in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So then goodness brings you closer to God because the better you are, the more your actions lines up with the commandments, i.e. the law.
Yeah.
And then the law is the instruction books of righteousness, which is the actual nature of God Himself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then the next question is, how does goodness make you feel more love? Because I think one of the problems in our society today is that people have a misunderstanding of love.
Mm-hmm.
So they think that justifying them is love.
Mm-hmm.
Or they feel that being accepted in a group is love.
Yeah.
Or they think exalting themselves through accomplishment is love.
Right.
But actual love ties into virtue, peace, and goodness. So how does goodness actually create more feelings for the actual biblical love?
It makes you more able to be vulnerable and close to people. if they're being good to you and you're being good to them, then there's no limits to it.
Yeah, so then how does that make you feel more?
Well, all the limits on the love damp it down and make it so you can't feel as much. So I think maybe there's more to it that I don't know, but I think that's
This is
just
good.
all it is.
What you're saying is good, yeah. Yeah, so basically, by getting rid of the limits, you feel more, but also the feeling of joy, happiness, and virtue comes from goodness. So then it creates a degree of excitement. I think the biggest mistake in helicopter parenting is that people for a couple decades thought that teaching their kids what to avoid was love, and then it gets so bad that people think that love is teaching people how to avoid problems.
Mm-hmm.
So then you don't actually feel love that much when you say, like say for instance you think because I am a physically strong, tall man that means that I'm dangerous, child molester, evil, whatever. Okay, and then so you're afraid of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we talk for a few weeks, and then you think, okay, I'm a good person. You realize that all those negative thoughts are not true. And then you say, okay, he's a good person. How does that realization still not recreate the love?
I think if you're starting out from a negative place, then the most you can do is kind of like neutralize the negativity.
Right. So with the fear culture, if you realize that someone's a good person, you don't necessarily have love for them because your main focus is the things to be avoiding, and the things to be afraid of.
Now you say, okay, we don't have to worry about somebody else, not him.
Right, whereas in the 50s even, when people would see somebody they liked, they'd get excited.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see someone, and then you're actually a more loving person, even if you actually almost anticipate the person being better than they are.
Oh yeah.
But what I will submit to you is during the positive era,
Mm-hmm.
and when you did anticipate people being better than they are, it was nowhere near the era was nowhere near as bad as the negativity of the fear culture. The fear culture is saying, how do I know you're not an axe murderer?
Right.
Well, how many axe murderers do you think there are in the state of New Hampshire?
Yeah, I don't suppose there's any.
5. There's one.
5? 1.
Well, there's one that you know about, so times it by
You know of one? I don't know of any.
serial killers.
Well,
I don't know what
I
the
said
difference-
axe murderer.
Yeah, I'm not sure the difference, but there's at least one.
Oh, okay, so 1 out of 1.5 million. So what is the odds of that? Well, 1 in every like 0.0001.
Right.
So does it make sense that you're going to label everybody as a serial killer because less than 1/100th of 1/10 of 1% of people are?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and plus too, like you mentioned in the past, when thought people were better than they were, that was very inspiring because people used to, like you'd hear this all the time, I need to live up to what she thinks of me.
Yeah, like you say, if I love you and then you think I'm better than I am, your
I
love
Yes.
is important to me.
Right.
So then I want to be that person.
Yes. Right.
And it's
Yeah.
not just even with your kids. If your kids admire their parents, then
Yeah,
you
you
want.
gotta live up to their expectations.
Whereas now in the fear culture, you have to say, okay, look, I'm not a serial killer. I've never committed a crime, never hit anybody. I'm not violent. Oh, and what else bad thing do you think? Okay, you think okay, if we're a Christian, that means that we're a cult, and that means that we sacrifice babies. No, we actually don't do that. We just believe in
Study the Bible.
Right. So I think once you like the fear culture somehow and then if you really like somebody, this one is kind of a pet peeve of mine. So say you get excited about someone, you remember the last conversation you had with them, and you love them, you tell them you love them. People think that means that they're a stalker murderer, right?
You're obsessed with them.
Right. I mean, when you look at like these obsessions, with people that are mentally ill, they're not showing true love.
Right.
So somehow people think that true love is a sign.
Looks like that.
Right. And I think it's based on everybody just obsessing over problems cause people to not recognize goodness.
Yeah.
And goodness is what we need for happiness, because I think now, like with the Me Too movement from a few years ago, and feminism, and this is what's wrong with the liberals, is like the liberals created such a massive degree of fear that you then don't feel comfortable to express goodness or to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, of course, now I'm not trying to say that the conservatives didn't get 100 times worse and aren't like destroying the rest of what's left of the economy, but I think the liberals really took on this fear culture, cancel culture, saying flirting is harassment, and so on and so forth, and then this created the isolation. The fear culture created the isolation culture. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And then isolation quenches goodness.
Yeah.
Because then you're not allowed to be good, because goodness then gets labeled as something evil.
Right.
So how does goodness give you a more meaningful life?
Well, it gives you things to be happy about, for one. It gives you things to, like, invest your talents in. It gives you a purpose. If you happen to be so fortunate as to have the goodness, like, reciprocated, then that, like, really gives you life. And, without goodness, what is your point of existing? Just to survive?
I would dare say goodness is the meaning to life.
Right.
And so everything that you have without goodness
It's kind of pointless.
becomes empty.
Yeah.
And I've learned, like, becoming more successful later in life, when goodness is gone,
Mm-hmm.
then if you have success, for instance, it has no feeling to it if nobody loves you.
Right.
If nobody wants to share it with you, if nobody's impressed with you,
Yeah.
then there's no point in, it's not like being successful, for yourself actually creates any joy.
Right.
Like if you have like a degree of success, then you should want to use the success
Yeah.
to better other people.
Yeah.
And then you want that betterment that you do to get some acknowledgement, and then that acknowledgement creates happiness, then it inspires more goodness.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, with a fear culture, people, don't want to be close to somebody that's, say, more successful than them, or people don't want to be happy because whatever reason it is, but, people don't feel comfortable to express admiration and joy, so then success becomes emptier than it was even in a better time, So success doesn't create a meaningful life without goodness. If you do, another thing I've noticed, like when you go to Africa, if everybody there just says, "Give me, give me, give me, can you help me? I know somebody that's in the hospital that needs medical bills. I have this problem," gives you a list of problems. If there's no goodness, and so if all you're doing is giving money,
Handing out cash.
and there's nobody appreciates the goodness, and no one's trying to be good to you back, then there's no meaning to it. There's a little bit of meaning to doing something good because you're actually making someone's life better, but it was a lot better when there was some emotion
Mm-hmm.
that was exchanged, between people. Whereas today, like you talk to someone that's poor, and then they'll just give you a list of their needs. Whereas in the past, like the Bible teaches us that we're supposed to be friends with each other. We're supposed to be close to each other. So you're not only supposed to help the Good Samaritan, be like the Good Samaritan, but you're supposed to help become friends with that person. They're supposed to be important to you. They're supposed to be a part of your life. And then your goodness is just an outreach of the relationship. Whereas today, you could actually do goodness in a transactional way,
Mm-hmm.
and it sucks all the feeling out of it. So we kind of hit on this next question, but how does goodness make you more happy?
Yeah, well, so if you're able to do something good and make somebody else happy, then where it's more blessed to give than receive, you actually can get more happy than they do if you're able to make them happy with something good that you do.
Yes, goodness is the foundation of happiness, right? So if someone is being righteous to you,
Mm-hmm.
then you get more happy.
Yeah,
But then, Jesus, the word blessed means happy.
right,
So Jesus says more blessed to give than receive.
right,
So then if you can actually make someone else happy through goodness, then you become 4 times more happy than them.
right,
You know, so goodness is the key to happiness.
yeah.
Okay, so now we move on to the next word in the verse, which is righteousness. Okay, so how do we become righteous?
Well, the simple answer is by following the commandments. You know, the commandments are your guide to what is righteous. If you obey everything that you learn, then you become righteous.
Well, that's an honorable thing to do for sure. And what's the first thing you need in order to do what you said? And of course, I gave you a hint.
Well, yeah, the first thing you have to do is humble yourself.
Correct, you got the hint. You're right.
Yeah.
Before there's honor, there's humility, right? Yeah, you can't actually obey the commandments with pride
Right.
because you actually convince yourself that you're perfect and that you're already obeying them.
Yeah.
And then if you justify yourselves, well, I didn't do this for this person because,
Why?
right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. In order to obey something beyond you, you have to humble yourself.
Yeah, so you first need to be humble, you need to be prayerful,
Yeah.
and you need to be obedient to the commandments, which is what you said.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a 3-step process, and then you need to subject your impulses to the commandments
Yes.
once you learn them.
Right.
Whereas today, I think people are subjecting their impulses to their fears primarily
Mm-hmm.
and their social group secondarily.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those two become one.
Yeah.
So, how does righteousness in general create more meaningful relationships? Because you can see today we live in a world with empty relationships, right? And I think the fear in the work culture and feminism has created empty relationships. So I'm independent, I don't need you. Is that a righteous thing?
No.
I don't want you to help me because I can do this on my own.
Yeah, well, the only way I can think of to explain it is through the negative side of the coin is that, sin quenches all your relationships. So, righteousness overcomes the sins.
That's true. There's a couple of types of sins, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the more obvious ones, violence, adultery, lying, stealing,
Yeah.
breaks down the trust
Right.
and destroys a relationship, right?
Right.
But also, whatsoever is not of faith is sin.
Yeah.
So in here, in this study, I don't think anybody that's an adulterer, a striker, a murderer, or a thief is actually going to say, "Oh, I want to watch that Bible study," right?
Right.
So the type of people that would be more interested in a Christian lifestyle, their sins that would affect them are more fear, social pressure, political activism, workaholism.
Yeah.
Technically, all those things are sins. They're
Right.
not as bad as those physical sins,
Yeah.
but they're not righteous. It's
Yeah.
it's not righteous to discriminate against people that are in a different stage in life or a different social setting or a different background than you, right?
Mhm.
It's not righteous to withhold your friendship or your affection from somebody because you think it would look bad to your group or you're afraid of them, although they've given you no reason to be afraid. it's not really righteous to make yourself so busy with work that you have no time for anybody else. It's not righteous to think you're cool if you reject people. Somehow isolation culture has found its way into looking cool.
Yeah.
Like there was a time when the more friends you had, the more people that liked you, the cooler you are. Now it's like, I'm so bad, I can reject this person, I can reject that person.
Okay.
And so I also think the subtle sins kill it. But if you actually focus on righteousness, then your relationship gets built on depth,
Mm-hmm.
and also it alleviates fear, which also destroys a relationship. So if two people connect through godliness, through trying to save souls, through focusing on redemption, through edification, through talking about the scriptures in an in-depth way, through trying to help, having a common bond of helping people in need, if your bond is based on that, then that creates a more meaningful relationship than what you get from, I like this person because they're not somebody that my friends are going to think are weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
Okay, so how does fear and avoidance limit righteousness in general? I'm consistent. I almost answered this question, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's kind of the same answer. Yeah, if you're motivated by things you're going to avoid, then you're not going to be able to obey commandments or extend yourself in a righteous way.
Yeah, if your main thing is what do I need to avoid and what problem do I have, that's different than what's good about Richard over here. What makes Lily happy? Did Ben did Ben help somebody out yesterday? I heard that he did, right? Like start thinking about the goodness in each person creates more feeling than trying to think of what needs to be avoided about each person, as opposed to, oh, okay, what is if I say such, is that going to make him mad?
Mm-hmm.
Or if I do this, is she going to think I'm weird?
Right. Yeah.
Thinking those thoughts, which people are obsessed with today, destroy emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then you have to shut down and internalize all of your thoughts and feelings if you need to avoid potentially upsetting somebody.
Yes, and the thing I learned that we talked about recently is I think that now we've created a society where people are not bonding because we've created so many subcultures and so many groups of things that people want to avoid that it becomes impossible to be your authentic self.
Yes.
And then that kills righteousness. Okay, so the next question is, how does faith enhance righteousness?
You have more faith in if you have faith in God and His commandments, then you have faith in a positive outcome of your righteousness. Like, you're not afraid of what if this bad thing happens. You are anticipating a positive result.
Yes. Faith is basically believing in a positive outcome. So if you have faith, then you believe something better than what you've experienced is what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
Most of your feelings, as we've taught before, comes from anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
So as we said earlier in this lesson, if you anticipate something bad and you learn you're wrong, you've still killed the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's with a person, you need to try to recreate the moment.
Yeah.
And then that's when but because people don't express feelings anymore, you can't do that. So say I thought you were an axe murderer, and I thought that you were a thief, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then this I thought, and then yesterday, let's take how you helped me yesterday, right? Okay, so let's say you heard about it instead of me calling, and then you said, all right, I'm going to drive 45 minutes to help you, right? At the moment that you do that, that's a clue, number one, that my negative thoughts would be wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've already killed that moment because of my negative thought.
Yeah.
So what you need to do to get faith in the person is try to reclaim the positive. So then I need to then go do something for you, get your good response to get that feeling going, right?
Yeah.
Whereas where people don't want to express feelings today, they say, oh yeah, I was wrong, well, do you like the person? Well, they're okay. You can't really change your feelings without faith.
Yeah.
So then if you have faith so say I know I'm wrong and then I realize that you're good, then I can anticipate goodness, and that anticipation is a form of faith. So faith in God is the same thing. So if I believe in the goodness of the commandments, I anticipate that the commandments will make my life better. I anticipate the promises of God. I anticipate the virtue of God. Then I get better. Whereas the fear-based world, if you're intelligent, you might realize you're wrong. But without faith, you still can't improve the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the next question is, how does a love for righteousness enhance our love for each other?
Well, I think so. Everybody has something good about them, and so if you find what's good about another person and you admire that, that's going to create more feelings in you. It's going to make you a better person, and then if you can express that to them, it's also going to make them a better person. They're going to want to do more, once they get the positive reinforcement from it.
So if you don't love righteousness, how does that not enhance your feelings for another person?
Well, then you're not doing anything or saying anything to inspire them to do more. You're not getting anything out of their goodness.
Yes, so maybe your feelings then become limited to self-justification, like this person believes what I believe, or something like that. But like if you love righteousness, then there's no limit to righteousness.
Right.
So if you love righteousness, then you're actually loving all forms of goodness, virtue, and goodwill, right?
Yeah.
So then you see that in another person, you already have love simmering,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see righteousness in another person, then it just grows like a snowball.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't love righteousness, there's nothing that works like righteousness to enhance feelings.
Right. Yep.
So this next question is, why do we need faith in order? What exactly does faith have to do with feelings? I think we kind of already went over that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why do we need sincerity to have real feelings? So I'm changing the word from righteousness to feelings because I would view righteousness as emotions.
Mm-hmm. Well, if your feelings are based on something insincere, like what you think your image of yourself is supposed to exhibit, or what you think someone else is expecting you to do, there isn't really any feelings in that. It's just a mechanical operation of, I know I should do this, so I'm going to do it. If it isn't sincere, then it's just, it could still be a good thing to do, but it doesn't create feelings unless it's sincere.
Yeah, like I've had this struggle with younger people. Like I have a younger person in my life that tells me that they love me, tells me that their dream is to be with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't care how I spend my day, doesn't talk about their day, doesn't notice anything about me, doesn't remember things that I say, doesn't, you know, doesn't actually talk about anything that happens in their life. And I do realize that a lot of younger people have this problem with communication,
Mm-hmm.
but like
It's hard to feel sincere.
I think that younger people are also into transactional relationships,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of the apostasy. So if you just have a transactional relationship, if you can't talk about your day, if you can't share an experience with somebody, if you can't ask somebody questions, if you can't experience their life as well as share with them your life,
Right.
then you know, what is the sincerity behind your feelings?
Mm-hmm.
Once again, if you're a good person, you might still help such a person.
Right.
You might have someone that's a friend of yours say, okay, I'll help you if you need me because I'm a good, you know, person.
Right.
But if you don't actually express anything,
Right.
then what is the sincerity to your friendship?
Right. Yeah. Right.
So I think when I say younger people, I don't mean just younger people. I think people younger than 50 tend to have this problem. Like when I work in the morning, I go to Panera Bread and I see groups of people in their mid 60s there every morning socializing with each other.
Yeah.
But you don't see younger people doing that. Like my workers, for instance, don't even like to sit in the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They'll take their food and go out, and some of the times they stay by themselves. Some of them socialize, but typically, the sharing of experiences tends to be something people older than 60 do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, hopefully, in Israel, you know, where they says they do well in happiness, and they've had to go through so much trauma, maybe a positive thing is maybe they have better communication skills, and they share more. So a love for righteousness would fix the communication problem.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly does faith have to do with feelings?
Well, I think so like we said, faith is, you know, in essence, expecting a positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
In order to have a positive feeling, you have to expect a positive outcome. If your anticipations are negative, then your feelings are all going to be negative.
Yeah, so I think in this apostasy, people don't have any faith.
Mm-hmm.
So people aren't wanting to be vulnerable. So I think there was a faith that was natural to everybody, which is faith in your fellow man.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be redeemed, you had to put faith in God and put faith on a higher plane, a more eternal plane,
Mm-hmm.
which was the way it was during the church age.
Right.
But I think it came from a place, the starting ground was faith in your fellow man.
Mm-hmm.
So the fear culture that started near the year 2000 or whatever caused people to feel that we're more advanced and more intelligent if we question everything and if we worry about everything.
Right.
And then that kills feelings. So you actually need to anticipate something good in order to have real feelings. You need to anticipate something good to have faith in God. You need to have positive anticipations, I think, is the foundation of faith, which is the foundation of feelings, which is the essence of righteousness. Okay, so how does a love for the truth enhance your faith or your redemption or your joy? Like why do you need to love the truth?
Well, I think in order for anything to be compelling, like you have a conscience, and if you are aware that something isn't true, it kind of is going to diminish your motivation to act on it. Like if you know something is true, that can really give you more energy to act on it. But if you know it isn't true,
One thing I think's happened, like with kids being taught that the acceptance in a group is the most important thing.
mm-hmm.
I actually think this has caused the political polarization because people now see more of a benefit from what the group says
Yeah,
than something that might contradict it.
right.
So anything that's not of God, any group that you ascribe to,
Mm-hmm.
it is impossible for your group to be 100% accurate.
Of course.
Okay, so then what happens is the groups, instead of loving each other, people are looking for flaws in each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look for flaws in each other, you will find them.
Right.
You may not see them yourself. Like if you pick this group, you might think that everything that you believe is correct, so you might not be aware that it isn't. And then the flip side to that is pretty much most of these groups also have something they're right about.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you focus on justifying yourself, your strength is in the truth. But then if you don't care about the truth that contradicts what you're doing,
Right.
then you have a problem. That's why I like to use, on the political sense, the gun control issue the best, because I believe there's truths on both sides
Yeah.
that are so blatantly obvious that they can't see it. Like the conservatives are correct that if you outlaw guns in a city, criminals are going to take it from another city
Yeah.
and kill people, and people will become defenseless.
Right.
And then conservatives are correct, like in Israel, when the teacher's allowed to have a gun on their desk.
Mm-hmm.
If some kid comes to school with a gun,
Right.
if he hasn't killed the teacher first, the teacher can defend,
Stop 'em.
stop the rest of the kids. But then liberals are correct that allowing AK-47s in people's homes,
Mm-hmm.
basically just you're asking for people to die. The liberals are correct that places like Australia that ban guns
In Canada.
don't have any mass shootings,
Right.
and that we do have a problem with guns in the country, right?
Right.
So you can see that both sides have a truth.
Yeah.
Both sides have something that they're wrong about,
Right.
right? And so it's kind of if we actually put the truth above the group, then both sides could learn what's right in what each other thinks and
Mhm.
what's wrong.
Yeah.
But now we live in a world where what our group thinks is the only thing that's right. Here, we, like those of us that are in this video, we're near Concord, and there was actually a bomb threat in a congressperson's office, 4 miles from here, based on a politician saying something that wasn't true. And so it hasn't happened. Like nobody's got hurt, but people can actually die
Right.
from not caring about the truth. It can actually turn into violence. It can actually create wars. It can actually destroy people. So when it first starts, it's not anywhere near as dangerous as it is now. Now it's, okay, you don't like me because you want to assume people like me are bad, right? Even though I'm not. Okay, so that type of problem, isn't going to kill anybody, right?
Right.
But eventually it gets to the point where if you have somebody in your group that's corrupt, if they become popular,
Mm-hmm.
then even if you're a good person, then you could become evil.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen with the Christians in the last decade.
Right.
Many of them have become, violent and evil or supporters of violence through not focusing on the truth. Whereas if you
Right.
actually have the Bible as a guide,
Right.
then you can say, okay, I believe in this cause, but they're doing it differently than what I support.
Right.
There's a variety of ways. Like people could have more independence with a love for the truth,
Yeah.
because if independent thinking, that is,
Right.
Because whereas now you have to submit to the boxes of the social group that you're obsessed with fitting in with, even if what they're saying isn't true,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Can't break the ranks.
So, if okay, so love so why do we need sincerity of real feelings? Okay, how does a love for the truth? Okay, how has So how has our fear for the truth in recent years fractured society? Not only do you need to love the truth, but I think most intellectuals would agree that most people are kind of afraid of the truth.
Mm-hmm. So what's the question? Sorry.
How has the fear of the truth fractured society?
Oh. Well, I think the truth is the one thing that can bring us together. If we all agree on what a problem is, if we agree on what is good, then, as soon as you don't have a common idea of what's good or what's true, then it's easier to compartmentalize society. Okay, this over here we believe this, and we're not listening to you because we're different.
Well, I think before we had this social polarization, we had a fear of the truth, right? And so what happened is, say for instance, I'm not saying I do, but say I think your shirt's ugly, right? Yeah. Okay.
I do.
Okay, so she thinks your shirt's ugly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a time where that's no big deal.
Right.
Okay, so then the logical response would be wear a different shirt.
Right.
Okay, but then since the 90s, people say, you're attacking me. You think I'm bad
Oh yeah.
because you don't like my shirt.
Right.
Okay, so then what happens is when people started getting these fragile self-images,
Mm-hmm.
where every time they hear something that could speak negatively of them, they take it as a personal attack, and then by taking it as a personal attack, then eventually leads to having a fear of the truth. So then that caused people to then say they like things that they used to be the joke with women. Do you think I'm fat?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So there's many beautiful women that could be overweight, and then we could be fat too. Like 60% of the people in the country are fat, right?
Right.
But then you was taught, you never say yes.
Right.
I think that you look
Yeah.
fat, right?
Yeah.
Whereas,
Say I agree with whatever you think.
right. Well, then you add a degree of people putting popularity above the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then people put their social standing with their friend group above the truth.
Right.
After you had society think anything you think of me that's unflattering is an attack,
Right.
you then are at a place where people become afraid of the truth on many levels. Okay, so people are afraid of the truth because what if the truth says something bad about me? People are afraid of the truth. What if the truth means I'm going to lose my job? What if the truth means that I'm not going to fit in with my social circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you take this for so long, then you have the progressive lefts and you have the Donald Trump people. So both extremes are not that into the truth. It is definitely worse on the right than it is on the left. But, like once you don't care about the truth, then you actually become oppressed. And the oppression is then motivated by fear. because you don't have faith. You need faith and truth to overcome the oppression. It would be nice if you could just talk about issues, right? But issues only work with people that have a sound mind, that have a love for the truth, and that are stable. So you can say to me, you know what, you shouldn't wear that shirt. Well, actually, I used to have this with my second best friend, who's no longer with us. Like, I'd wear a shirt, and he'd say, Henry, you know, if you're going out with that girl, don't wear, you know.
Yeah.
And then I had these shorts that I wore for a long time. He said, where did you get those? I said, I got them in 6th grade. And he kept making fun of me for years with 6th grade shorts.
Yeah.
You know, I made it clear not to. And actually, he was trying to help me. He wasn't trying to hurt me.
Well, the modern answer is, what about the shirt you're wearing?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually appreciate that he critiqued my clothing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and taught me how to work out better.
Yeah, because you don't know, does this look good? You know, it's nice if somebody will just tell you the truth.
Right. Yeah. And I dated a narcissist in 2004, and I wore the sweater. I said, "Do you like the sweater?" She said, "Not really." Do you like mine? So I knew not to wear that sweater ever again. You know, and but at least she was honest about it.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and
tactful.
It wasn't really tactful, no. But I did like hers, and mine didn't look good. I mean, she was right, you know, with what she said, but needless to say, you could just simply say, okay, so not loving the truth has created a lot of fractures in society. But I'd like to say it's so simple. Say, okay, so let's all just believe in truth. Well, if you're into self-justification, and someone says, "Do you believe in what's true?" Everybody's going to say yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They say, but then if you get to specific issues, if the issue attacks your fragile self-image, then you're going to say what justifies my image is true. If the truth attacks what your group believes,
then we get to hear what about what they did.
What about what they did? Right. And I know it would be like Ted Bundy and the BTK killer gets so like, what about what the BTK killer did? You know, it was like, you know, neither thing was actually
Didn't
good.
the army kill thousands of people in Vietnam?
Right. Yeah, that is a dumb response.
I think so.
Yeah, but regardless, but if you're into truth, then you wouldn't think that way.
Right.
But I think we need to have more self-confidence in how God made us, and we need to look for a sincere social circle rather than just trying to fit in with what the numbers of where we get the most friends. One thing we've talked about recently, and I'm going to repeat this, we have seen people on, I won't mention their names, but we've seen people who are born naturally beautiful, perfect people that actually kind of reject people that have goodness like they do in favor of people that are not as good as them because they want to fit in with a self-image, and their natural virtue is not esteemed by society.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's one of the strangest things I've ever seen in human nature in my life. Okay. So why do you actually need to love the truth in order to have faith?
Well, I think without love for truth, everything is weak. Like, how are you going to get excited about, even if you have a positive anticipation, how are you going to get excited about that if it isn't true? Or if you don't know that it's true? Like, it casts a doubt over everything.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of virtuous people in the world now that they tie their faith into their self-image. And so once you do that, you've kind of lost your relationship with the truth.
Yeah.
But then people that do it can be good. They can help out people in need. They can, it's not a bad thing if you're going to pick a self-justification.
Right.
It's not the worst one to pick, right?
Right, but how can you have any sincere feelings over it if you don't know that it's true?
Right. So in order to have faith in something, it has to be real. Like everybody that owns a car has faith that their car is going to start.
Right.
So that's the easiest level of faith.
Yeah.
But then the next level is to have some faith in your fellow man.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next is to have faith in God.
Yeah.
So you can't have faith in God if you don't have faith in truth, because Jesus says he's the way, and what's the second thing?
The truth.
And he's the life. So there's another place, I don't know where it is, but it says he's the spirit of truth.
Yeah.
And so to identify with this truth, you need faith.
Yep.
Without faith, then you're not going to have any convictions on the truth. So how do fears cause people to to disregard the truth? I think I might have gone over that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. I already did gone over the next question. And I've already done the next question. I could read, do you want me to read the questions anyhow?
Sure.
Okay. How does promoting a self-image cause people to disregard the truth?
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, how does self-justification cause people to disregard the truth? Okay. So how does putting peace and self... Okay. Yeah, okay, so that pretty much covers our topic on the truth. So that was... so in here, verse 9, the key thing is goodness, righteousness, and truth. Okay, so now we've got one more verse for the day, verse 10, which is proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. So how can you know what is acceptable to the Lord?
Number one is by studying His Word. I mean, it's
Yep.
going to tell you exactly what is acceptable and what isn't. Then you need to figure out how to apply it. Like, not every situation in your life is going to be addressed in these texts. You have to figure out what does it mean, what's the point behind it, and then apply it to your own situation.
I think I agree with that totally. I might just word the same thing slightly differently. As I would say, the first thing I'd say the same: read the word, learn how to apply it. Agree with that 100%. And I also will say, is it true and is it good?
Yeah.
If it's true and good, then it's in God's will, whether I
Okay.
understand how to apply it to the word or not.
Yeah.
You know. How can we prove what is acceptable?
I'd say with the same test. I mean, does the Bible condone it or condemn it? And then the thing you just said, is it true? Is it good? Like if you have a thought or an idea and if you carry it out to its extreme, does it create something good or not?
Yes. Yep. So why is love in general always acceptable?
'Cause
True love, that is.
Yeah, well, and like the Bible says, love knows no harm to its neighbor. Like I don't need an AK-47 if I love my neighbor.
Right.
I'm not going to harm people if I love them. I might actually, endure some harm for their sake. So I don't need to regulate that.
Yeah, so anytime, love is basically the proof of the will of God.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays when people try to deny God, they always go to Noah's Ark or some archaeological thing that don't prove something from
Right.
5,000 years ago or whatever.
Right. Yep.
Okay, why do we need to love each other? Why do we need to actually love each other in order to be acceptable to the Lord? Why do you need to love God's children to be acceptable to the Lord?
I'd say, God is love. So in order to be one with God, in order to be in God's will, in order to be on the same page as Him, you have to love, and then you have to love love. So if you actually love love, then you're going to love other loving people that are also a part of God.
Yeah, it says, I command that you need to love each other fervently,
Right?
and or let all men know you're my disciples by the love you have one for
Right.
another. And so he created us for fellowship, which I think most people nowadays don't realize. It really wasn't to just condemn what's wrong with society.
Mm-hmm.
And we're supposed to, most of our time shouldn't even be what we're doing. Okay, so we were just talking, the battery died, is why we need to love each other in order to prove, what is it, let's see, verse 10, prove what is acceptable unto the Lord, okay? What is acceptable unto the Lord is that we have a fervent love for each other, okay? So why do we need to be separated from the world in order to prove the accepted will of God?
Well, like we said before, primarily the world is opposed to God. So being in God's will in itself is going to separate you from the world.
So I need to be separated from the world to obey the golden rule.
Same answer, but to be more specific, the world people are preoccupied with their own self-interest, their own image, their own benefit, and in order to be in God's will, you have to, surrender that and look out for the benefit of your neighbor.
And then why do we need to be separated from the world and to properly meditate on God's word?
The world has different values. Again, like the world is going to teach you how to promote yourself, how to fit in with a group, how to promote an image, how to get what you want, and in order to overcome all that, you have to fill your mind with what's good, true, pure, and holy. You have to learn, that happiness comes from helping somebody else, not getting what you want. You have to focus on the commandments and what God teaches in order to get beyond that.
And why do you need to be separated from the world to pray without ceasing?
Because the world is full of distractions. You got to earn money. You got to, make a living. You got to take care of your necessities. And then, if you're going to then go beyond that and say, I got to, have all of these social trappings that's going to allow me to fit in. All of these are distractions from your prayer life.
Yeah, so the world is going to teach you to lie to get ahead. The world's going to teach you to celebrate, the pagan holidays, to wear immodest clothing. The world is going to teach you to favor people that justify themselves, that exalt themselves, that promote themselves. And the world's going to teach you that fame and fortune are the building blocks of a meaningful life. So in order to prove the acceptable will of God, you need to overcome the world and separate yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next week, we are going to, we might even do 4 verses next week. We're going to start with verse 11. But dear God, I pray that we all get filled with the fruits of your Spirit, and this our example of living proves the acceptable will of the Lord. And we pray that you bless our day and bless anyone that hears this message. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.